The Milwaukee Bucks shut down any rumors and possibility of trading Kyle Kuzma, but have they? We're talking a little bit about that. Plus, the Suns reported interest in Jonathan Kuminga, and the Pelicans get bad news on a rookie that they should have some pretty good goals for. We're going to get into all that and more right after this.
Welcome to the number one place for your daily basketball news and analysis, NBA Central.
What's going on, basketball fans? Welcome to another episode of NBA Central, your number one spot for everything basketball related. I'm the host there, Hayes, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at NBA Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this content for today, y'all. And this one comes from the Athletics Milwaukee Bucks staff writer Eric Nelm, who says this in regards to the Milwaukee Bucks, and from the Bucks general manager John Horst says this: I think that Kyle gives us a chance to play fast, a chance to be huge, play a lot of different big lineups. Plus, he's a plus defender at multiple positions. And he's a guy that offensively, when he plays with confidence and he plays within the flow, is very impactful. We still believe in Kyle. He struggled. He hadn't been to the playoffs in a while either. And I thought he played great for us most of the regular season after we acquired him. And I think he struggled in the playoffs. We could tell you that Doc and I have already gone to LA to spend some time with him. Doc's going to spend time with him again. So it's basically saying this, and Horst goes on to continue this. I think the biggest thing with Kyle is just getting the familiarity, working with our coaches in the offseason, being part of training camp, and just really building into the system where he understands where he's going to get his looks, how we have, where he can have his impact. He's a guy we believe in a lot. I think that he will have a big year with us, just having continuity with a good team and a full offseason with a good team, which he hasn't had in a while, so we're excited for him. So that all but shuts down a lot of thoughts that maybe that the Milwaukee Bucks could still look to flip Kyle Kuzma in a deal to continue the roster overhaul that they did when they brought in Miles Turner, signed a lot of decent role players to that team. And, keep in mind, this comes days after the Milwaukee Bucks president said that they felt they did everything in their power to improve this team enough for Giannis Antetokounmpo, and also saying that, they laugh at some trade rumors and things that pop up with Giannis. So, the Milwaukee Bucks seem very confident in what they have. Now, Kyle Kuzma is a polarizing player. People do like to talk about Kuzma as if he's like some completely terrible player. And I do think there's a reason to believe, especially if you're a team that recently acquired Kyle Kuzma and, having a full offseason, being in your system a little bit longer, building that continuity with players, there's reason to think that may be able to get better out of Kyle Kuzma than what he gave you, especially, towards the end of that season. So, and in the playoffs. So, I get what they're getting at here. I just hope that they remain open-minded in case anything does pop up that can help them in the now. And, the Milwaukee Bucks are going to, saying that he's a plus defender at some spots is a little questionable. I went up and looked at it, and technically he is right. He is a plus defender in some areas, but it's like by a very small margin. But, it is what it is. Plus is plus, right? So, he is looking at the advanced analytics there, but, the Bucks are they're at this place where they gotta hope that the makeup of this team is going to be good. They gotta hope that they're going to be good enough to win some basketball games here, especially in the Eastern Conference. That I fight back when people say it's wide open, because I think you still have your teams you still have your tiers of team that are clearly above one another. In a lot of cases, some in the Eastern Conference, but Kyle Kuzma does offer some positional versatility. You can't take away from that. He averaged, after coming to Milwaukee, 14 points per game after doing 15 in Washington. You can't take away from that either. And in the postseason, it was a problem. He averaged 5.8 points per game in the postseason on 34% shooting, so it was terrible. And to his point that Hurst made there is that it's been a while since he's been on a good team. I mean, that's just the reality of it. Is that little dig at the Washington Wizards? Yeah. But the reality of it is he has been on a bad team for a long time. So hopefully, being in their environment, it gets it going. He can play much better for that Milwaukee Bucks team. And I understand why they're holding out some hope. I personally don't share that. That's my personal opinion. But then again, what deals are really out there for Kyle Kuzma at this point? And we all don't really have that answer on that yet. So the Bucks are right to kind of hold their hand, wait to see how things are going to shake out, and figure it at that point in time. And we'll see where it ends up shaking out for the Bucks. They are hoping that they're going to be good enough, that they're going to put a team out there that can compete enough to avoid Giannis Antetokounmpo for requesting a trade and him being happy in the direction of the team. And, so all those things considered and where they are right now, I get where the Bucks standpoint is. I get where their vision is coming from and their opinion on that. They just got to hope that it's going to work out. And hope is a very dangerous thing to rely on, especially in this league. But we'll see maybe if the Bucks can be on the right side of some luck and find their path, and maybe this works out for them in the long run. But let me know what you guys think on that down below. With that said, we do have another update that I want to get into today, and that's in regards to Derrick Queen. Derrick Queen was a player that, the New Orleans Pelicans felt so confident in moving up to get that they gave an unprotected pick in 2026, which is shaped up to be another very deep draft. To me, personally, if you're willing to do that in a draft that's coming up that's deep and considered to be a pretty deep draft, because keep in mind, the draft in 2027 is considered to be a weak class when it all shakes out, is that you're very confident in that player. Now, I have some questions on the fit with him and Zion. You got Yves Missy, who was a player that as a center really did stand up pretty good for you last year. And to me, Derrick Queen is one of those players that you get because the talent is there. But if you do ever decide that you want to move on from Zion Williamson, I think that Derrick Queen's going to possibly be ready to move into that. Now, here it comes out, is that Derrick Queen had to go, he tore a ligament in his wrist on July 15th against the Trailblazers in Summer League. And now, it was determined that he will need surgery on that, and that's going to put him out for 12 weeks. He'll be reevaluated at that time. And so at least there is a clear path to this. It's not really a good time for an injury at any point in time, but here's this. He has more than enough time to recover from this before the start of the season. I think that's the bright side. If you're looking for any bright side in news like this, it's that Derrick Queen has more than enough time to recover, and he could be very well ready to go by training camp for this Pelicans team that's, hoping that they're going to be a team that can compete somewhat in the Western Conference. They got a lot of really nice young pieces there. Jeremiah Fears, I like a lot of their roster that they have accumulated there, with the Pelicans. And, now we just got to see how it's going to come together. Coaching is going to be a big part of that. Of course, how healthy is Zion going to be able to remain over a season? These are all questions over the Pelicans' head. And the last thing you really wanted is another injury concern over the player that you just traded a 2026 first-round pick to move up in this draft and get. When it all comes down to it, injuries are out of your control. You cannot control injuries more times than not. And the recovery on this one is pretty straightforward. Does not seem to be something that's going to be too lingering on. With big men, especially the kind of high-impact big men like Derrick Queen, who, are heavier, a little bit shorter than traditional centers, you want to avoid lower body injuries. And then, not to say that, it's just a wrist, that means that it's not serious, but luckily it's not anything in the lower extremities. It doesn't shape up or look to be anything that's going to be a risk for it to be lingering on in his career or anything. So it's a hit, right? And it sucks to have. It's a hurdle to have pop up early in the start of your NBA career. But Derrick Queen's a tough guy. Nobody can take anything away from Derrick Queen's toughness. And that's part of the reason why people bet on him and what he's able to become in the NBA, even with missing some skills that you look at for big men nowadays and defensive limitations. But I think Derrick Queen is going to be fine in the long run, but wanted to provide that update. Next up, Ben Simmons. The Kings have been now mentioned as a potential free agent destination for Ben Simmons. Now, we do know that the Kings are looking for a point guard. Devin Carter actually played pretty well for them in the summer league. I wonder how that shapes up. But this one comes from Jake Fisher, on Bleacher Report live stream, where he says this: for Ben Simmons, the two teams we're hearing for him still in the mix are the Sacramento Kings and New York. We're still anticipating the Kings to be bringing in another veteran guard, and Ben Simmons is on that list of potential targets in addition to Russell Westbrook and Malcolm Brogdon. And I think he'd make an interesting addition there. Ben Simmons is 28 years old. In a lot of ways, he's kind of turned his career around, right? Being back on the basketball court in a consistent manner, which is something that he hadn't done for a while leading into that. In 51 games, he averaged 5 points, 5.6 rebounds, 4.7 assists as well, and he shot 42% from the field, only in 22 minutes per game. Ben Simmons, to me, is still a player that definitely can help some teams. More of a specialized role. The ceiling on what you looked at as Ben Simmons, years ago, that's gone. But I do think Simmons at 28, especially for a team in the Kings that need a point guard and need a point guard that can distribute. I know that he's not traditional point guard size, but that's pretty much the role that he plays. That makes sense for him. And I actually like that when it comes down to it. The Kings have acquired Dennis Schroeder. They got some more depth there at the point guard than what they had leading into this, and we'll see. I think that he could be a solid fit. Somebody that I wouldn't mind seeing Ben Simmons go to as well is Minnesota. I think he would be an interesting fit in Minnesota as well, especially as they have Rudy Gobert as the defender there in the paint. But overall, Ben Simmons, the Kings, New York, as two teams that are interested in Ben Simmons. Let me know what you guys think on that down below. Let's get into the last thing for today. In regards to just things going on around the NBA, man, there's a lot right now. The NBA is in a place where there's a lot of talk. We've had Bradley Beal. We know where he's going now with the Clippers. Dame is going back to Portland. There's been a lot of kind of fun and more interesting things to happen around the NBA here over the last couple of weeks. And, the NBA season, the offseason is a thing that, we've been covering heavily here. We've gained a lot of new subscribers over this offseason. I just want to take this time out to thank you guys for those that didn't know me from a can of paint, and the ones that came over from Bull Central. Always, you guys know I have internal love for you guys and always will for that one. But for the new guys that have come in here over the last couple of months, we really do thank you for that. But enough mushy stuff. Let's get into the last topic today. The Suns apparently have expressed some interest in Jonathan Kuminga. Now, still not a point guard. I don't know what the Suns have against getting actual point guards to their roster, but Jonathan Kuminga is an interesting thing. This also comes from Jake L. Fisher in an article in which he talks about, the Bulls being a team that was interested, and Jonathan Kuminga really did want to go to the Bulls, but it seems like the Suns have expressed exploratory interest in the sign and trade to acquire Jonathan Kuminga. That comes from Jake L. Fisher. The Suns are not considered likely to have the type of assets in the form of players or draft cap that the Warriors would seek to participate in a sign and trade. So, it's going to be interesting to see, like, this Kaminga thing, as it keeps going to its ultimate conclusion, it seems like more and more likely he's just going to end up staying in Golden State. And, how that affects going forward, we shall see. But, we already know, like Steve Kerr's basically not the highest on Jonathan Kuminga. But I guess we'll see what happens here. We've heard so many teams. We've heard the Kings, the Bulls, now the Suns, the Nets at one point that could be interested in Jonathan Kuminga. It just seems like nobody really knows where Jonathan Kuminga is going to go. I guess we should find out sooner rather than later, as all the restricted free agents still have not signed deals. But that's my time for today. You guys can let me know how you feel on everything down below. Make sure you guys are following us at NBA Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, NBA Central Show at gmail.com. And then lastly, if you want to leave a text message and or voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We're the number one spot for everything basketball related. And I'll see you guys the next time I feel like making a video, probably tomorrow. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Breaks Media.